what's interesting about the line total, and the total is it opened 224, and last night it went down to 221. Now it's down to 218.5. So that would be, you would think maybe Bell's not in there. Yet the point spread has gone from 15 down to 14.5. So doesn't quite jive there why the money would come towards the Hornets and the total would drop. Either way, though, I like Minnesota in this game. I personally hope Bell plays because we'll probably get a cheaper price near tip-off. A couple reasons I like Minnesota, though. First of all, Charlotte is horrendous, and I'm never afraid to play against horrendous teams, whether it be the NFL or the NBA or college football. And they're a terrible offensive team. And just like we talk about in football, when you're laying a big number, double digits, you don't want that backdoor cover potential. And Charlotte's averaging just 108 points a game. They're shooting the ball miserable. 41% of that Philly loss the other night. In fact, if you look back over their last 7 games, they have shot 43% or worse in 6 of their last 7 games now. And they might be without one of their better offensive players in Bell. Question becomes, is the big favorite interest? That's the other thing you want to see when you're playing a double-digit favorite in any sport. And I think Minnesota will be. They're one of the best teams in the NBA, and they're coming off a loss at home in their previous game on Saturday. And they have a 4-game road trip coming up on deck. So after a home loss, road trip on deck, I think they'll be focused to finish out this homestand with the win. And it was a decent loss. Oklahoma City, they were a 3-point favorite, lost by 5. Keep in mind, they won 4 straight before that. Other thing I'll point out, too, is one of their worst offensive games of the season. They shot just 41% from the field. Another reason why I think they'll be extra focused tonight and lay it to a bad Charlotte team. And let's look at Minnesota bouncing back off of losses here over the past month or so. Their previous loss was against Boston on January 10th. At home in their next game against a bad Blazers team, they won by 33 as a 16-point favorite. Also had a loss back at the beginning of January at home against New Orleans, go into Houston and win by 27 the very next game. So we've seen them repeatedly win by double-digit margins off a bad showing, and I think that continues tonight with the T-Wolves.
So I've got Minnesota, 3-6 their last 9 tries, laying double digits. And while I agree with your assessment about Charlotte being a team that we're much more interested in fading than backing, I mean, the Hornets have played better basketball in recent contests. They, they may not have covered against San Antonio. They won, and they came back and hung around against Philadelphia. The point spread, obviously, the great equalizer. Do you worry at all that this is just too many points? And when you have a double-digit favorite like this, do you ever split it up first half, full game, or is it just a full game wager here for Minnesota?
Yeah, for me, it's a full game. I've never been a real first half guy. A lot of people do very well with that stuff. I will say this, recapping the NFL real quick. Those number 1 seeds came out pretty sloppy. Not sloppy, but they came out a little slow in the first half, Baltimore and San Fran. And we obviously saw, by the way, I thought that was a great, I should have tweeted it out. There's so little time with halftime lines. But I had Baltimore as a strong best bet at -9.5 for my clients. It was tied up 10-10. Houston in the entire game never got inside the 25-yard line except for the punt return. And they were -6.5 at halftime. I thought that was a great second half play, but didn't serve me any purpose because we already had a full, 4% play on Baltimore -9.5. But that's just something you want to look for in any sport when a team is dominating, and you're getting a misleading maybe halftime score. But I thought San Fran and Baltimore both came out a little slow in the first half. San Fran was kind of slow the whole game, but something to keep an eye on. So that's a time maybe you play a first half. I don't necessarily think the first half's any different than the full game here. I actually like the full game better, probably just because Minnesota has the ability to pull away, and we have seen them do that. They might not have a great double-digit spread record, but off a loss, they've won all those games recently by more than this spread. And keep in mind, Charlotte, the only game they've shot better than 43% the last 7 was that Spurs win you referenced, their only win against a terrible San Antonio team who's an awful defensive team. Before that, I was on the show last week on the 17th here, and I mentioned New Orleans and Charlotte. And Ronald Kabang was on the show when you and I were guests. I was guest hosting. Ronald liked the Pelicans last week. I ended up using the Pelicans also as a best bet. Also did a free play video here. And Charlotte lost by 20 in that spot. So I think this is a similar situation. Keep in mind the game before that, they lost by 17 at Miami. They also lost by 36 against those Spurs a week before. So I have no worries about Charlotte getting blown out tonight. They're more than capable of finding a way.